Hello, everybody. Um, Today we will be talking about, or should I say, today we will be giving shout outs, and we'll be giving shout outs, recognition, flowers, to those that contribute to the growth and the success of Nigerian players. Yeah, let me put it that way. Nigerian players, right? This platform will always recognize. This platform will always give kudos. This platform will always give shout out to those that deserve it, even if people don't see, even if people don't hear about them, even if people don't even talk about them most of the time. But for me, I think these guys are they are one of the people. They are not just they're one of those guys that actually contribute to Nigerian football. Believe it or not, right? Believe it or not. So these guys are local coaches. And when I mean local coaches, these guys are coaches at the local level. When I mean the local level, like the grassroots, like the bottom of the bottom of the whole football culture in Nigeria, right? These guys are responsible for players' growth and development at that level. So here is it, right? Every Nigerian professional player today, every player who you see say he dey where him be professional now, him popular, they don't sabi am. They all came from a football club or academy back then, from the ages of like maybe 9, 10, 11, 12, and they all had these coaches that groomed them at that age. And I think this is a place where some of these players spend most of the time with this particular coach, right? Because sometimes, because they move to other places, they move to clubs, they stay 1 or 2 years and there they go. But at this level, these are the guys that groomed them from a very young age till when person can see them, agent can see them, say, you guys are play ball, can carry and go, right? These guys will sacrifice a lot. Their time, their energy, their knowledge, even if they say they're not too sabi, but at least a little already sabi. Now it make some players get what they get, and now you make them, now you even carry some players reach with them day to day. Because there's no way a player would not, there's no Nigerian player that would say there's nothing that boyhood coach didn't do for him or didn't impact in his playing career. That's impossible, right? So this video today is just to like to give shout out to them, to those coaches. I mean, I've made video in the past, right, that referenced the training compensation scheme, and I also mentioned how at least the NFL, for those in charge of football, should make sure at least these guys back there also should benefit from training compensation that players get when they make a move or when they travel, right? Because definitely if a player travels, if a player gets a contract abroad at the age of maybe 18 or 19, the club abroad would definitely pay training compensation to the club that has groomed this player from a very young age, say from like 12, 13 till 18, right? So I made a case for these guys that at least these guys can also benefit, even if they don't have records. Because back then, how many coach they want, right? They get list or get they don't have records of their players and everything. So yeah, but at the same time, the NFF can do something about it. So these guys can just benefit because, to be honest, they also played a huge role in players today. They played a huge role in transforming players. They played a huge role in developing players today, whether we like it or not. Forget all these new academies where they come. It's an academy they come. Forget that one. Let's go back to that structure, right? So, and then for me, I just have coaches that I know or coaches that I've played on that back then. I'm just gonna give shout out to them, mention their name. You have coaches. You have your footballers. No matter whether you play professional or you know play professional. No matter whether you play football, go far or you don't play for. But as long as you don't play football before and you don't get coach, we don't coach you. Back in those days, when you young, they get coach. We say see this coach you don't do. Give shout out to that coach. Give shout out. If you feel to reach out to the coach, I just call him, on the norm. Just coach, have fun. I tell you happen. Your boy, if he gets something, we go send give him. Just give him. Just appreciate him for what he do back then because it no easy. And it was back then we nothing even they say, right? It no easy, but these guys, they like I said, they sacrificed their time. How much you even pay them? They pay training to that time. How much? 30 naira be 50, 20 naira they pay. You know, one not even reach anything, right? But but then they still, because most of them even get family. They will leave their family. They will come spend like 3 to 4 hours a day. Some people they train Monday to Friday. Some they train Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Some they train Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever it be. But in a week, they spend almost how many hours with these guys, with these players, right? Trying to give their best and everything. So let's shout out to them. And then if there's no plan for them as at this time, I think those in charge of football should always put something in plan to encourage these guys so they can continue this job. Because believe it or not, we will get raw. That is where we will get raw talent direct, and that is how we can keep that culture alive, and we can keep it going, and then we can still be getting players. Because like I always say, from now to the next 5 or 10 years, we feel nobody see players again, right? Because of the way the whole country behind the economy and everything, right? But yeah, let me just give the shout out to these few coaches that I know that I've played under, right? When I started playing football, right, when I realized that, okay, this is football. When I was young, this is football. It was when I started growing up in Kirikiri. So I attended Blessed Trinity Nursery and Primary School, right? So it was at this point, right, that I knew what a coach was. So there's this coach back then. He's a school team coach. His name is Oga Benji. Shout out to Oga Benji. Oga Benji was the first person that actually nurtured me. He was the first person I saw okay, this is a coach, right, for football. And we had a school team then. Then I was very young. Blessing, I'm even small pass for the team safe. Yeah, but then he would always he would give us drills like this. And then we were also playing a tournament back then. I think there was a tournament for primary school right back then. Yeah. So he would always coach us this. If you make a mistake, we'll train and all those things. So that was how I knew or where I started. Okay, training then sweetie good and those things, right? Though it wasn't really 11-a-side kind of pitch, right? Because we were young, but at least the school had a space and we could play maybe 5 against 5, or 6 against 6 like that, right? So, and then I remember there was one incident, right? I remember. So on this particular training session, right, would he run? So he's you sprint. If you sprint and he sounds the whistle, you stop. He sounds it again, you sprint and you stop. You sprint and you stop. You sprint and you stop. For my head, I say, this guy, how this one won't take, how I won't use this one for ball where they play. Waiting be all this sprint and stop. Lo and behold, we go play match one day. We played against Umbrella. Right? And Umbrella get players. But they will later hear say they go Kaya machinery. But no, that nobody should be that. So we play umbrella, and then we play this match for Igbo Field. People in the Igbo Field, right? Cemetery. Igbo Field now for Trinity. The field now fence now in demarcate the pitch and cemetery. So field day, cemetery day. If you jump that fence, cemetery be that. So game called game day with back at the play. So one umbrella player they for the side, for that right hand side, close to where that fence there and everything, right? So then give the umbrella guy ball or more. As they give a ball like this, Chima, remember, now Chima Obasi, our player. Chima Obasi, they run come. I seen they run come like this, the guy, he caught Chima. As Chima they run, Chima no who break. Brah, na so Chima just a clear goal. When I saw that thing, I was like, see this thing we did do for training, no. Sprint stop. Chima no get break. If not be saying that fence, Chima for enter burial ground. Right? So all those like little ideas, those little things where the coaches that they give us, we would think say maybe nah nothing. It happen. I also remember one time, right? So after that whole primary school, then when I finished primary school now, right? Then before I can enter the main football. Shout out to Oga Benji then, back then, primary school. Oga Benji, he was a nice guy. He was, Oga Benji was his name. We call him his name is Benji, but we call him Oga Benji, right? Yeah. So he was our coach back then in primary school. So he was the first person, he was the first coach that actually, that I knew what coaching was and put us through in the game like that. So the second person that actually brought me into football and knowing like proper football 11 aside and when okay this is position this that wide 11 aside is Casey. Shout out to Casey. Casey was my coach. Like he was my for me he was my grassroots coach that actually taught me a lot in football, and I actually learned from him, and then he took me in because Casey actually when he brought me in to the team, although he had a team, All Stars, right? All Stars. He had a team already. So when he saw me and he brought me in, so he wanted to have like a feeder team, like an academy. So he actually used me to form that academy, to start an academy, right? And then he started like, this is what you do. He actually told me this is the position, this is where I want you to play. You're going to be this, you're going to be that and everything. Shout out to Casey. I'll never forget. He was also like a father to me, right? And I remember then, and also there was a time he wanted to go, he wanted to arrange a camp, right? Because his main team, they had a tournament coming on. So he actually wanted the team to go for a camp. You know how players go to prepare all those. It was in Casey, in that team, I learned that, okay, how you see team going for a camp and prepare for game. It was Casey that brought all that into me, and I was like, okay. So he wanted the team to go for a camp, like to prepare for the tournament, like spend like maybe a week and everything. So, and then he actually said I would go to that camp with them. He said I will go. I said I don't even have any business. Nobody said I go play the tournament. Nobody say, but he said you must go, right? And I went. He spoke to my dad, and my dad said, okay, as long as you look after him, I put him under your care, no problem. So I went to that. We had that camp at Ikorodu, right? It was nice. It was nice feeling the players. Just how players, how team prepare for tournament. It was nice. It was nice. And then also he and that thing Casey did for me, he gave me confidence. Like he was like, you can do it, and he would put me against top big, like the senior men, play with them. He gave me that courage, like you can do it, you can play. Like it was Casey. Yeah, he gave me that, and he really taught me, and right, also, and another coach that I will give shout out to. I also give shout out to ST. Yeah, so at a point where Casey was, I think he wanted to go face other business or something, so he brought in ST, right? ST was a nice guy back then, fantastic young man, very gentle, quiet. He also has knowledge of football. He taught us so many things, discipline, how to play the game, what to do, like everything that he ST was that. And I also remember after training, sometimes he had that coach player relationship with us, especially me and a few other players back then. He had that coach relationship player with us. He would always like after training, always like let us see him off. We'll see him off. Sometimes we get somewhere, he go buy pop he go buy yam. We just sit down there, go buy sometimes, go buy mineral that time, 7 up or whatever. We just sit down there, we just chop and then my friend will go. So he was like that ST. He was like that. Shout out to ST too. Shout out to ST. Shout out to Ashman also. I also played under Ashman. One thing I never forget. One thing Ashman actually taught players back then: you must be neat. No, say you dey play ball, no mean say you go dirty. That's Ashman. Say you dey play ball, no mean say your jersey go dirty, your hose go dirty, your booty go dey do it. Nah, you have to be neat. You have to be like neat, punctual, and also discipline. So one thing those coaches have, like discipline. They always like I always say in football, you have to be disciplined. It's very important, right? Very important. Shout out to Ashman too. Ashman was a very funny coach, very funny. Ashman. In English, they need a clear, but they always funny in English. Yeah. Ashman they flog you if you no clean or if you no need come feed. You go, be say joke beat, right? Right. I also mentioned Okala. Shout out to Okala. Okala for a Bluefield as well. Okala was our school team coach back then in Sinclair, right? Okala too. He was good. Like he also when we were playing for the school, like he also brought his own knowledge and he was always like what to do. And Okala no nonsense coach. Okala no. I remember that time he get one rubber went to the wipers. Now rubber, I don't know where that rubber. See all those for motor, those window, those rubber with the hole of those. I don't know. Now in the cotton, if you play nonsense or you do want now that rubber, or color. But yeah, he was, and also who else? Who was just color? There's also Coach Osaro of blessed memory. May so rest in peace. Osaro, they call him Ojo. Player and a coach. I played under him also in Udoji, right? I learned he's intelligent. He's an intelligent coach. Osaro is an intelligent, and he knows the game, and he played also, so he knows. One thing Osaro will always tell you. Osaro will tell you one thing. He always tell you, and never forget. He always tell you, when you have the ball, just put the ball 2 meters ahead of you. That way you can decide what to do with it, right? Just put it 2 meters. Don't have it on your feet, except you want to do something. But just push the ball to be 2 meters ahead of you, and you can do what you want to do. You that throw long pass or whatever, right? That's Osaro. Shout out to Osaro. Shout out to Coach Mohammed as well. Indomitable Lions. Indomitable back in Kirikiri, right? Shout out to all these guys. Yeah, so you see, shout out to Oga Benji, shout out to KC, shout out to ST, shout out to Ashman, shout out to Coach Osaro, shout out to Mohammed, shout out to Okala, man. Shout out these guys were guys I played under, right? And also their coaches, there are some other people too. I also played when at Ijesha, right? When I went to we had a team. Then I also played under Ghana Soccer of blessed memory. He's late as well too. Shout out to these guys. At least they contributed. I learned something from them. Wherever I go to, I always learn something from people. Like I learned something from all these guys, and these are the guys that they made us believe back then that you could actually make something out of football. Like they tried to see it through. They tried to push us. They tried to encourage us. They tried to. I mean, they did their best. But it's funny somehow. I mean, sometimes you get reward for your work. Sometimes you don't get reward for your work. But at the end of the day, I mean, they were still doing what they were doing, believing that one day they will have somebody somewhere. But probably some of them might have players somewhere that are doing well. But yeah. But for me, this is just what I would have to just give back to them. I just have to give them shout out. Like, I appreciate them for what they're doing. And like I said, you all have coaches back then. Footballers that are watching this, you also have coaches back then. Shout out to those coaches. If you can reach out to them and let them know that back then, coach do back then, I appreciate them, or anything what you feel do, just if anything if you draw for them, things hard back then, things don't change, things no be as it did, just reach out to them, right? And just help them in whatever way, help them, just form of appreciation. I mean, no matter, like I say, no matter you play professional, you don't professional, any idea, just as long as it did back then. Yeah, so this segment is just to give shout out to these guys. Yeah, to give shout out to these guys. And yeah, I'll also come back to also players also that we were looking up to back then. Players that we were looking up to. That's gonna be an interesting one, very interesting one. Yeah. So thank you all for watching this one. All right.